Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a practical guide for NPSP users, a four-part series exploring the path to Salesforce Nonprofit Cloud. Again, I want to send a warm welcome to everyone joining us this week. We're happy to see you. If you'd like to, please pop into the chat with your name, your organization, and share the first thing that comes to mind when you think of data migration. We got some chats coming in. Long days. Yeah. Build mappings. Yes. There we go. I think so too. The Met. Pain. Oh, those are really good. So let's jump right in. This week is focused on data and prepping for our data migration from NPSP to NPC. Let me walk you through what we're covering today. We'll start with data prep for the migration, what it takes to get your data ready for Nonprofit Cloud, why it matters, and how to approach it from the review through the final planning. Mehmet Arun, I think I pronounced that correctly, from Cuneiform, will join to show how their tool can speed up data analysis and prep. Then Maddie Earhart from Salesforce will demo programs, case management, volunteer management, building on the fundraising demo that you all saw last week. We'll leave time for your questions and a few takeaways that you can bring back to your own teams. Like last week, feel free to jump in at any point with questions and put them into the chat. Hello, everybody. Again, I'm Ashley Goad. I'm the Director of Data and Architecture here at Fíonta. I have been focusing over the past 18 years, dating myself, my career in partnering with nonprofits specializing in strategic data migrations, seamless system transitions. I live in Roanoke, Virginia, and this picture here is a view off of my back porch of the beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains. I share my home with my two teenage boys, 14 and 19, my husband, two very spoiled dogs that are also pictured here. I enjoy cooking, wine tasting, photography, and sailing. So it is great to be with you all here today. This next section is about data prep and migration. I'll show you what it takes to get your data ready for Nonprofit Cloud, what decisions you'll need to make along the way, and how this process sets the foundation for everything you'll do in the system. Before we dive deep into the data, one quick note on landscape. Nonprofit Cloud uses different terms than NPSP and PMM. For example, contacts become person accounts, service deliveries become benefits, and case plans become care plans. We put together a takeaway spreadsheet that shows how these terms map across fundraising programs and case management. My colleague Karen will be or has put this into the chat, and we'll be sending this over via email tomorrow. Learning NPSP terms now gives your whole team a common language that makes decision-making during the migration much smoother. When people talk about moving to Nonprofit Cloud, they usually start with features or demos, but none of that matters if your data is not reliable. Think about a board report that doesn't match the finance totals. Confidence in the system drops immediately. Migration is more than just moving fields from point A to point B. It's a once in a many, many years chance to reset. I really like to use the moving metaphor here. You shouldn't take every dusty box from your attic, from your old house into your new house. You want to sort through things, right? You want to decide what's useful, what you should donate or trash, and then trash the rest. That's what good data prep looks like, and bring only what helps you in the future and letting go of the clutter. The first step to taking a wide-angle look at your org, Salesforce storage usage will show you which objects and files are actually taking up space along with the record counts. You'll quickly see what's active or versus what's kind of sitting idle. From there, you'll ask yourself and your team some brutally honest questions like which objects are actively supporting fundraising and programs today, and which ones are legacy or hardly used. Do notes, files, or attachments need to come over? Or can they be archived? Are there whole areas of data that can be archived but not migrated without affecting compliance? This is also the point to layer in retention rules. If your organization is audited or receives government funding, you may be required to keep data for a set of years. I've worked with many clients that say they've come to us, they have 15, 20, 30 years of event data, but they only need to keep, let's say, 7. The goal as the stage isn't to get into the weeds yet, it's to take stock, understand your data landscape, make thoughtful decisions about what's worth moving and what should be archived and what needs to be retained for compliance. That clarity becomes a foundation for every step that follows. Salesforce can connect to many different things, such as donation forms, finance systems, email tools, volunteer platforms, the list goes on. And every one of those is a dependency. If they rely on NPSP model, they won't automatically work with NPC. The exercise is simple, but powerful. Make a list of every system, app, automation, and report that touches your Salesforce org. Who uses it? What data flows in and out? Is it critical to the daily operations? Is it a nice to have? Could it survive a few days of downtime during the migration? Or would staff be blocked from doing their day-to-day jobs? As a reminder, this is not just the IT's job. Development, finance, program staff often know about systems that fly under the radar. An old import tool, a Zapier connection, spreadsheets maybe feeding into the system once a month. That's why this tip is here to involve staff across departments. The more complete your inventory, the smoother the migration will be. Reports often show consequences of messy data. Leadership dashboards, grant compliance reports, daily fundraising summaries. They only work if the data underneath is consistent. These mismatches don't just frustrate staff, they will undermine trust in the system. That's why we recommend making an inventory of your most critical reports as part of the migration prep. Rich reports are non-negotiable for leadership meetings, which are required for grant compliance, which dashboards are relied on a daily basis of your staff. Once you've identified those, trace them back to the data they depend on. If a board report relies on clean donation records, are those records complete? If the program dashboard pulls from multiple fields, are those fields consistent? The tip here is to use reports as a window into your data. Reports will tell you which fields and objects, and most importantly, where those inconsistencies exist. Where there are duplicates that might be causing confusion. Addressing those issues now mean that when you launch NPC, your reports will be technically accurate and trusted by staff. Let's talk about high-level mapping. It's like unpacking a moving truck to me, which means which room are these boxes going to go into? Most NPSP objects, like donations or campaigns, have a clear home in NPC, but many orgs have used objects in a creative way, or let's be honest, kind of like a Band-Aid. We've seen campaigns used to track volunteer shifts. I've seen opportunities used to track volunteer hours, to rework to be managing grants. In NPC, these may not be the best fits anymore. This is your chance to decide to either continue to do the work around or map to a better object or retire the data. At this stage, the goal isn't field by field mapping. It's more or less categorizing your data at a high level. Which data streams will move into fundraising, which belong in programs or case management, which can be left behind. By surfacing these big questions now, you avoid surprises later when you're deep in the detailed mapping. This is also where NPSP to NPC naming convention takeaways come into play. We've created it for you to show you how common NPSP terms map into NPC across fundraising programs and case management. Using it here helps your team stay aligned on terminology, and it makes it much easier to decide which room each box is going to go into. We want you to stay high level here. Don't get into field level yet. Just decide on which room each data stream belongs in. The long part, the detailed mapping. This means basically opening up every box, field by field, asking yourself, is it still used? Is it consistent? Do we need it? We often see pick lists with messy values like, I don't know, mother-daughter, mother/daughter, parent-child. We also see text fields that have values in it that maybe should be pick lists. So these are the things that we need to think about. These values kind of mean the same thing if we're looking at the mother-daughter example. But if you migrate them as is, the inconsistency continues. Or we see orgs with hundreds. I've seen hundreds of fields on hundreds and thousands of fields, custom fields on various objects, some of which haven't been touched in years. Do you really want to carry all that forward? Remember, not every chip class that you have around the house when you're moving is worth wrapping a newspaper and hauling to the new house. This screenshot here is from our partner, Pernova, who will demo their tool, Cuneiform for Salesforce, shortly. What you're seeing is how many fields exist in your org than most people realize, and how many contain incorrect, duplicate, or missing information. Tools like Cuneiform make this visible, so you can decide on what's worth keeping and what to clean and what to retire. Detailed mapping might feel tedious, but it's also transformational. If it's done well, it means that when you open up NPSP on day one, you're not starting from the same messy closet that you had in NPSP, and you have one of those nice closet storage organizing closets that is intentional and streamlined and ready to support your work. Test migration. A good migration doesn't happen all at once, it happens in phases. As soon as core objects are configured in NPSP, we migrate sample data so staff can test the records they recognize, such as a major donor, a top volunteer, program participant, etc. That data validation builds confidence and surfaces any issues early. Staff can say, yeah, this doesn't look great, and we can refine that before the final cutover. Test migrations are like dress rehearsals, and they'll make opening night a lot less stressful. The final migration, the big move. By this point, we've already tested and refined. We've extracted fresh data at an agreed cutoff date, often over a weekend or another quiet period, and then we load into NPC. Validation is critical. Record counts should line up, donor history should be intact, compliance files should be in place. It's like a walkthrough on moving day. So when you're ready to sign off, you want to make sure everything has arrived safely. But even the best plan won't succeed without people. Assign a dedicated team, a dedicated data lead, folks who know the data and can make quick calls. And plan for downtime. So every migration brings some disruption, but if you communicate to your team clearly, staff should not be surprised and confidence stays high. Migrations vary in complexity. A small org with, say, one Salesforce instance and maybe a handful of integrations is kind of like moving a studio apartment, where multiple orgs, custom code, dozens of integration. That's kind of more like a headquarters move. The biggest factor here, a lot of times, is people. If staff know the data well, decisions move quickly. If not, that can also aid in complexity of the migration. To make this manageable, we've created a migration planning checklist. It walks through system reports, integrations, and retention rules. Don't solve everything at once, just start capturing what you have. That visibility makes every later step easier. And with that, I'm really happy to introduce Mehmet Arun, who is Senior VP of Cuneiform, who's going to talk about their data audit and prep for us, along with a special offer for attendees today. From there, we'll move over to Maddie Earhart from Salesforce to see a demo of program, case, and volunteer management in Nonprofit Cloud.
Thank you, Ashley. If you don't mind driving the slides. Look, my name is Mehmet Orun. I've been in the Salesforce ecosystem for over 20 years. I personally oversaw 30 plus data migrations as a customer. Past the point of 50 migrations as a consultant, you just stop counting. And I really appreciate the framing, which I wholeheartedly agree with. Among other things, I am the Data Matters Global Community Lead, which is a Trailblazer community. I invite all of you to come and ask questions or share your horror stories or needs. We are better together. Also, if you don't want to talk about data, but different styles from 1840s to 1950s or associated partner dancing, I am your dance partner. If we can go into the details, that would be great. The goal of this session is to talk about how, using data profiling techniques, you can right-size your scoping and mitigate data quality risk based on evidence and concrete examples. Cuneiform for Salesforce is the product my company has on UpExchange. Next. Fundamentally, what data profiling tools do is gives you a sense of your data so you can make the right decisions. What specifically differentiates Cuneiform is it is a fully native solution that can analyze hundreds of fields, millions of objects in minutes with embedded dashboards. Let's go to next. So you can look at your data readiness for AI or data cloud implementations. This session is specifically talk about how to guide NPSP to NPC migrations. Next.
Hit the button. I didn't listen the first time.
Yep. Look, at the end of the day, we are on this call because we all want to manage migration complexity. And in my experience, and actually I wholeheartedly agree with your framing, what often gets in the way is evidence, because most nonprofit orgs have been around for more than 5 years. Many nonprofit teams have not been there for the entire life of the org. So we don't know what decisions have been made, what is there, what has been abandoned, what is actually being used, and most importantly, what gets in the way. So I find data migrations to be the best opportunity to get rid of what wasn't working, archive what may be useful but not actively used, and make evidence-based decisions. So not only projects are on time, on budget, but you put the project budget where it matters the most. Having reliable data, useful interfaces that drives the business perspectives forward. Next. So what Cuneiform does, and what I believe Salesforce believes the first step of any migration process to be, is to understand your data so you can make the right standardization, cleansing, scoping, duplicate mitigation decisions, and then verify what you moved is in fact what you intended to move. Next. The way you should think about this is, it is not just looking at what was never used. When you want to migrate, you want to understand what is recently used. Many NPSP to NPC migrations I know about are not doing a one-time migration, but they are moving teams one group at a time. So your ability to understand by record type, by other filtering criteria, as well as date ranges to see what may be needed is going to be essential in any process. Next. Once you analyze your objects, Cuneiform will give you a rapid sense of how many fields are being used at different levels. Next, and most importantly, how many fields have been abandoned over time, and what is the total volume of records you may be bringing in. All of this takes place automatically within your org with zero code. What this means is, instead of looking at an object with 500 plus fields, where you're left with scripts or spreadsheets, you can spend 2 minutes to analyze, see what fields seem to be used, and next, you look at what fields are reliably used. My favorite example to avoid, 100% populated fields with only one distinct value that happens to be the default, and people didn't even realize this field is not reliable, so it is not meaningful to migrate. When we applied these techniques with a nonprofit recently, they identified that out of 539 fields, only 140 was recently used that was considered reliable, reducing scope by almost 75%. While an extreme example, you should assess your own data to see what is meaningful to you. Next. As we look at usability, it's not just about field usage, it is also understanding what configuration is meaningful, so you're not shifting everything. You want to have the cleanest new home, new org to have as much as possible. Are you using all the pick list values? What are the ones that are being used? Is there an opportunity to further improve standardization or consistency? Next. And you can easily do this by looking at field value frequencies that Cuneiform can help you see, so you can see most frequently frequent values and use this data-driven awareness as part of your solution. Any questions so far? If anyone is willing to do a show of hands, I would love to know if you use any data profiling tool today already in chronological order. Field Trip, Field Pro, Field Spy, and Cuneiform has been around for over 10 years in the ecosystem. And these insights can truly help you make better decisions. And I hope that you will apply this type of tool. So let's do a quick demo and I'll take over sharing. Please let me know if you can see my screen. It says contact all fields, all records.
Yep, we're good to go.
Look, one of the things I hope every data migration can take advantage of is not just moving to better functionality, a cleaner org, but also tackling the data quality challenges that gets in the way. What I want to look at when I look at my object is understand what data is behind my fields, even though I may have lots of fields. So I like doing quick assessments of, let me look at my email, phone URL fields. Let me see if I may have duplicates in the data, if I may have bad data in my fields. So, scrolling down to email, I see assistant email, contact owner, prior email, personal email, fields that may be familiar to your org. Most NPSP contact objects I've seen has 5 to 10 different email fields on the same object, where field usage varies by different teams, by different habits. And what we want to know is how unique those fields are to see, do we have a potential data duplication challenge that we should mitigate? As Ashley mentioned in NPC, instead of household contacts, we now have person accounts that represents individuals that may be program participants or donors, while you still have account contacts that may represent individuals at organizations that are driving major grants. So ensuring you don't have unwanted duplicates and your data model being cleaner is an essential opportunity. What gets in the way of data quality? Well, sometimes bad habits means people enter bad data elements, na@na.com, in the field. And this is going to mean that you think you have reachable contacts where you don't. This may also be an internal phone number. It may be an employee's phone number or email because you are trying to facilitate an outreach. That also doesn't mean these are actionable, reachable contacts. By looking at value frequency alone of all of your fields where you spend 2 minutes assessing and the rest of your time analyzing and deciding, you can truly accelerate your value. When you profile in your org, you can reduce the amount of spreadsheet copying and pasting as well. I can look at how much storage each of my objects have, how many fields do they have, how many of them are populated versus empty. I can look at these details at field levels. All of this data is available in a reportable way. I can look at my population rate. I can look at my distinct values. And using these insights, I can significantly accelerate my project delivery while reducing my risk. And I would love to take any questions at the end of the call or respond in chat.
Thank you so much, Mehmet. I think we're up now with Maddie, a demo of program case management and volunteer management.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Mehmet, thank you for showing such an incredible tool. I love seeing the value of Salesforce as a platform. Y'all, I am so excited to be showing you Nonprofit Cloud. Last week, I know we talked about fundraising and programs. Today, we're going to touch briefly on programs, and we're going to look at case management as well as the brand new volunteer management that comes with Nonprofit Cloud. And when I am showing y'all screens today, I think the thing to keep in mind is, of course, that we do ship our out-of-the-box apps, and we're going to look at some out-of-the-box components today, but we're also really shipping the Salesforce platform. And so what you should see on screen now, Ashley or Mehmet, would you mind letting me know if the screen's working? Beautiful.
Yep.
What we're seeing now is a custom app that we have to put some of these pieces together because we know that our organizations want to be able to really customize whatever the view is for your particular employees, stakeholders, etc. When we're thinking about program management last week, a lot of the time our distinction between program management and case management. Program management is thinking about it from the big picture perspective of our organization gives out services. Maybe folks are moving in cohorts, but a lot of the time program management thinks about it from that group lens. Case management is then going to come kind of more a bottom up approach where we're thinking about it really wrapping around that individual. And so on the left here, I can see some of my program information that you maybe remember from last week's demonstration. So we have those program enrollments. Those are going to be attached to our different programs we have. In this case, we have job placement program, food access program, and financial IQ program. And then we have our benefit disbursements where folks are going to be entitled to certain allotments of benefits, and then they're going to be distributed through that disbursement. In case management, we are going to layer in the intake process, the assessment process, adding an individual care plan to a specific client so that we can really wrap them in care. And then maybe as a part of that, they're also going to be enrolled in a program, or maybe they have their own individual coaching. We are going to get started today as someone at our organization who's processing our referrals. Nonprofit Cloud Case Management does come with our referrals. So in this case, I'm going to come in, we're going to look at a client who's been referred, Joe Williams. We can, of course, process referrals who are internal or external. So of course, maybe partner agencies are sending us referrals, clients who really match our services, but also different programs from across our organizations can say, hey, I actually think this client should be in that program, not this one. In this case, this is an internal referral, and my organization is called STEPS, and I can see both that the referrer is STEPS and that this is an internal referral. And it looks like this is actually of critical status. Now, of course, this is Salesforce, so I could have any fields that I needed here. I could have this configured any way I like. But because this is a critical referral, I'm going to go ahead and directly create that case. Now, this is a piece that is going to be unique to Nonprofit Cloud. And what you are seeing here is an example of an OmniScript. An OmniScript is a tool that is specific to Nonprofit Cloud and our new core industry clouds components, where you're able to build forms really easily. You're able to do pixel perfect manipulation so that if you need it to be really branded for your organization, you don't need a third-party app to do that. You could do that right inside Salesforce. In this case, some of this information is pre-filled out based on the referral. I can add a description if I need to. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And we can see that there are referral participants who are already attached to this because they came in through referral. So initially, we know our client is Joe and our referrer is Steps. If there were any additional folks who needed to be attached to this case, maybe Joe has a spouse, maybe Joe has a client that we're really keeping in mind as we are providing care to this family, I could go ahead and add them here. I can also separate. Maybe I need to keep track of the referral participants separate from the case participants. We can have those different stages. That's some granularity that is really nice to have with Nonprofit Cloud. So I can go ahead and just say, no, I'm going to keep them as is, where Joe is the client and Steps is the provider. And we'll say that these are both active. And then I'm just going to go ahead and hit next. Now, what you just saw when I mentioned OmniScripts, those are all reusable. So if I have different questions that I need to ask for folks, I can add those questions to additional OmniScripts so that I'm not always having to rewrite first name, last name, or collect any information. That OmniScript, when I just hit next, is doing a couple of things. It's able to update the system. So if I wanted it to say now this referral is activated or any status, and it's also going to go ahead and create a case. And of course, because I'm doing this on screen, there we go. It's also going to go ahead and create the case. And the nice thing is that case record is linked right here. So I don't have to copy paste my record ID and go hunt it down. It's right here for me. In this case that's been created, again, we already know it's Joe. We can see the referral here. So if I, as a case manager, ever need to go back and see that original information, that's already linked. Now I can add what's called an action plan. An action plan in Nonprofit Cloud is a way to add a bundle of tasks or information we need to a client. And this is really nice because it means that I can have a standardized way of working. So that's going to help me with training new staff. That's going to help me with standardizing workflows across my various case managers. But I can also make it customizable because I, as a case manager, have my own judgments about what this specific client needs. So I'm hitting new action plan and I'm going to say Joe Williams intake. And we'll give it a start date of today, and I will select my general intake action plan template. This is something that can be created for any use case that you might need. In this case, we have a general one. We'll go ahead and say that it's in progress. And I'm able to say, first, I need to collect personal information. Next, I need to collect documentation. And then I need to coordinate with the referring agency. I also can add a number of other things. So if there was documents that I needed to collect and just kind of have them pulled into Salesforce, maybe we have an external site where our clients are able to log in and upload files. Those could all be added as well. So I'll save my action plan. And what I can see now on the case is that that action plan is added here. And as I am adding those tasks, they can go be ticked off as I'm moving. Now, I mentioned we want to do some kind of intake assessment. That is also going to be an OmniScript. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into my all assessments and let's do our wraparound assessment. For the sake of time today, I'm not going to go through and click every single question, but I do want to give you another example of what OmniScripts can do, where I'm able to say, based on this, we want to check on maybe Joe is unfortunately not in incredible health. We can talk about the number of days that they have had mental health challenges. We can talk about the different items. And what this is allowing us to do is to track our progress. So as we are working with Joe, we're able to periodically conduct these assessments. And that means that as we are reporting back to grant funders, reporting back to our leadership, we can say our services had these benefits to our clients. And of course, all of that is going to be recorded back on the case. From here, I can also go ahead and enroll them in any particular program that makes sense for me. I can go ahead and enroll them manually. I could, of course, also set it up so that the initial OmniScript that created the case went ahead and automatically enrolled them in a specific program. There's quite a lot of configurability that you can do with Nonprofit Cloud. I'm, of course, able to record any meetings and upload any files as needed. So that's a pretty high-level overview of case management. I wanted to pause here and see if there are any questions before we look at the new volunteer management. Okay. So we've talked about case management, and in this case, our organization has several programs, and some of them we heavily use volunteers. We know that volunteers are very often the lifeblood of an organization, really getting the community involved. We also know that volunteers are a critical piece of infrastructure when it talks about sustaining our organization, both from the work they are doing, and we also know that volunteers are very likely to become donors and become long-term sustainers of our organization. The great thing about Nonprofit Cloud is volunteer management is already wrapped in, so you don't have to download anything extra. This is already in those orgs. In this case, we have a couple of volunteer initiatives. We're tracking our board, we're tracking our financial empowerment initiative, and also our food distribution initiative. And this initiative has different positions. Oh, we've got a chat going on. Okay. And this initiative has a few different positions here. So at the top, I have my information about these details, but I also can see that I have general volunteers and leaders. So my general volunteers, these are maybe a volunteer who doesn't have to have a specific skill set. If I come down to my position details, I can see this is non-skilled. And we know that sometimes we have walk-in volunteers. Sometimes we just have, this is open to anyone. You just sign up. Maybe you come in on our website. And that means that you can attend any shift that makes sense for you. So it looks like we have a shift on October 1st, November 1st, etc. We can also see past shifts, of course. So I can see there was one in July, one in August, and then one this past September. I can also set different locations if I need to. So we can see we have a warehouse location. As I am wanting to have people assigned to these shifts, I can also see the assignment here, and I can see them within a specific shift. So I can come into my volunteer shift and I can see that this one has a couple of folks assigned. And as they are coming, I can have them marked as present go ahead and say mark it as complete. If I wanted to customize what my status is, I can go ahead and do that as a pick list. It's saying, do you want me to? And then once that's processed, those are going to go through and become closed. And that way I can keep track of who was there, who was not there. I mentioned that this is a non-skilled position, but we know that sometimes our volunteers need to pass a background check, need to keep track of a maybe a skill set that they have. So I used to work at Habitat for Humanity. It was very important for us to, of course, keep track of folks who were just very friendly and skilled, and that meant they could be leaders. But we also had folks who were masons and folks who were trained carpenters, and those are things we want to keep aware of as we're engaging with folks, maybe cultivating them to be a potential donor, but also as we are looking for what needs do we have that arise in the organization. So let me come back into my food distribution program. Under those positions, we also have a leader position. And here I have my qualifications. Now I'm going to bop around the screen quickly because this qualifications is tying together these objects, these competencies, examinations. And these persons are just tying an individual to them. But what this allows me to do is say, in order for someone to be a volunteer leader, we want them to have these items. So I want them to have gotten at least an 80% on their volunteer group leader safety exam, so that my food distribution program understands that there's maybe someone who's CPR trained on the floor of our food bank, or who is able to handle challenging situations between our volunteers and our clients. I'm also able to say that in addition to passing our examination, we also want them to have certain competencies. In this case, I want them to have an intermediate level of customer service, so that again, we know that they're putting our best foot forward as an organization because we rely so heavily on the work of our volunteers. And then, of course, I'm able to keep track of everyone here. So as I have the different folks rolled up, I can see this is a volunteer shift. And then all of this information is, of course, rolling up to the individual. So this is my person account, Alex Garcia. If you remember last week, we explored Alex a little bit as a donor who is potentially going to be making a major gift towards our matching fund for end of year. I can see all of Alex's gift transactions, but I can also see all of Alex's job position assignments and whether she showed up. And so again, this is all things that I can keep in mind to really have all of my interactions with my constituents on a single screen. So that's a little bit about Nonprofit Cloud at this point. Happy to answer any questions. Feel free to come off mute or feel free to throw them in chat.
Maybe to make a remark, I remember when Salesforce had built the internal app to track this as part of the 111 program, and seeing it productized that smoothly as a Salesforce alum, like I was smiling because I remember the effort it took to get this right. And then seeing this shared after years of practice is great.
Yeah, we're really excited to bring this to market. Volunteers is something that folks have asked for a really long time, and it's really nice to have it it's in Nonprofit Cloud already. You don't have to go to the App Exchange. It's already in there. You don't have to buy anything extra. And so these data models, they're already designed to blend together, whether you're working with donors, whether you're working with program participants, whether you're working with individuals who need specific case management. I apologize, my cat has decided to come say hello.
So I have a question. I don't want to jump in line. I don't know if anyone else.
No, please.
I had a question. So, sorry if you can hear the sirens in the background. So we don't really do case management, but we do have a lot of volunteers, and we're eyeing the grants management. Well, I guess it's not the module now; it'd be the nonprofit cloud or whatever the grants one is. And we're wondering how some of these features work, not necessarily across the different modules, but if they're available in other areas. So the way case management worked, especially with the action plans, looked really nice, but we don't
Yeah.
do specifically case management.
Yeah.
And I feel like I saw that case management was an add-on. So I'm not sure if we would be able to say like pull and refurbish it in some way.
Hmm.
Do these features show up in the different areas in a way that we can use them more in their kind of native environment?
Yes. The short answer is less. Let me give you the longer answer for some of the nuance there. So, Nonprofit Cloud is when you buy Nonprofit Cloud, it is going to come with fundraising, programs, case, and volunteer. The only add-on that we're currently selling is that grant making. That is an extra. And that's just because it has some extra bells and whistles we can totally follow up with. I don't have a demo right now, but we can absolutely follow up with that. As far as all the tools you've seen today, action plans, OmniScripts, those are all going to come with Nonprofit Cloud, and you can use them for whatever objects make sense. So today I showed you an example of using it on a case. You could do it on an account. You can do it on an opportunity. It's just a way to add a bundle of tasks so that you can standardize that. Does that speak to what you're thinking, Rachel?
It does. I do have a follow-up question,
Please.
or perhaps two follow-up questions. I was looking through a price sheet earlier, but it's an old one. And I know that it's probably out of date in a couple of different ways. I was wondering, one, if there are different features between if this still exists, between the enterprise versus unlimited
Mhm.
edition, and what the differences in the features might be there. And the
Mhm.
second one, which is an unrelated or semi-unrelated question, which is if we only have a handful of people who specifically do grants management in terms of connecting to grantees, but
Mhm.
everyone needs to be able to access the data that comes in from that area. Is that
Mhm.
possible? So like everyone needs to know what are the funding awards. Everyone needs to
Mhm.
know who are the grantees. They just don't necessarily need
Mhm.
to interact with them. So I guess
Okay.
two separate questions there.
No, those are good questions. So let me start by talking about the additions and some of this. So I mentioned that we have one add-on right now that is grant management. The distinction I will make is we do have two additions, that is enterprise and unlimited. So as an organization, many organizations do start with enterprise edition. It's a little bit less expensive. You can buy grant management on either edition. When you upgrade to unlimited, you are going to upgrade every user and your entire org. And that's going to give you a couple of things. It's going to give you extra storage for per user. It is also going to give you what is called Salesforce's Premier Success. And so that is going to give you the ability to put in tickets, say, hey, what's this error? What's going on here? Help me troubleshoot this. It's also going to give you access to our expert coaching program, where we have a team of success guides who have been trained on Nonprofit Cloud, Nonprofit Success Pack, all these different features. And you can say, hey, I love Trailhead, but I need a human being to talk to help me walk through what is this grant process supposed to be? What are these objects? It is also going to give you a full copy sandbox. So Enterprise Edition does come with a partial copy sandbox, but a lot of the time between implementation, but also any future additions you might want, it is really useful to be able to say, I want to not only play around in a sandbox that looks just like my environment, but I also want to test whatever automation, whatever features I'm building on all of my data. And that is where a full copy sandbox is really helpful. I will be transparent with you that you can buy a full copy sandbox and Premiere a la carte. It is usually less expensive to just upgrade everyone to unlimited edition. Um, does that answer the first part of your question? And then I'll speak to the grant management piece.
I think it does. Kind of, I have a lot of follow-up questions, so I'm going to hold that one and let you answer my second question first.
Okay. Um, for your grant management piece, purchasing a grant management license gives those users access to that object. They won't have access to the grant management objects and framework if they don't have a grant management license. And there is not a way to give people view-only access at this time.
Okay, if everyone in our organization needs to know who all of the grantees are, for instance, then everyone would need to have a grants management license. Is that correct?
Um, Not necessarily. You could set up something that designates who is a grantee. But if they need to see the intricacies of they were selected and they've gone through this review process and they've gotten this percentage of disbursements, they would need their own grant management license.
Great questions, Rachel. Thank you.
I have some questions if we've got time available.
We do.
My name is Corey Simpson. I'm with the International Legal Technology Association, and thank you very much for the presentations. It's been helpful for us in figuring out whether a move to the cloud, the nonprofit cloud, makes sense. For us, our experience is we migrated from Personify to NPSP, and as an association, not a charitable organization, a lot of what I would call like nonprofit modules in the Salesforce's mind do not relate to us. So specifically grants, donations, and whatnot. And so one of the pain points for us with NPSP was detangling the two.
Sure.
We were able to use recurring donations to handle our annual memberships. And so we made things work along the way. But with the move to Nonprofit Cloud, we were hoping that there was more of like a association package, right? Like something that already detangles the two. So I thought I'd just throw this out on the call right now to see if there were thoughts or experiences. And if I'm the only one in this boat, by all means, we can move on. But just wanted to ask.
I'm sorry, just
I can
to interrupt Maddie real quick.
Go ahead.
Need Ashley to answer this as well, because you've sort of hit Corey on our sweet spot of using Salesforce natively as an association management system.
Yeah,
Yes.
Ashley, feel free to go ahead. And then
Yeah,
I can
sure.
add if you like.
So we're definitely building on core for our association clients because we have noticed that a lot of the applications, right, have been kind of keeping our association clients kind of in a box. So we are developing what we're calling a native AMS on the Salesforce platform. So we leverage many different objects in that, many different tools, Commerce Cloud, Revenue Cloud, billing, things like that in our native association build. So Corey, we're happy to talk to you about what that move might look like.
Great. I appreciate that. And so, I did reach out through, I'm assuming it's Fíonta's website, and got connected with Jordan, and we've been going back and forth a little bit, but I was here last week. I wanted to attend this one just to kind of get a preview of the stuff that you guys have.
Great. Perfect. I'll let Jordan know. I know he's traveling right now, going to Chicago. So hopefully he'll get back with you soon.
He's going to Chicago to talk to a major association about using Salesforce natively as an AMS.
Good deal. Well, if he finds out with some spare time, I'm in Chicago, so
Oh, there we go.
two birds with one stone.
Oh,
Perfect.
I'm going to text him and let him know that. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Great.
One thing I'll add super quickly, if you don't mind,
Please.
is
Yeah.
so what we have been showing today is the existing configurations you can set up. Pretty much, this is what the product is intended to use. What I loved about Rachel's question earlier, hey, can I use this feature in some other context? That is, I think, what Nonprofit Cloud is best suited for, because you get access to all of these tools. If you want these automation tools, if you want to do really powerful calculations, if you want to plug and play, you're not restricted to the apps as we designed them. You can have them be set up however you want. So I love that Fíonta is already going ahead and thinking about that with you. But I want you to, one of the limitations we saw with NPSP is that we basically set it up for you, which is wonderful. It does save people a lot of time if your organization already works that way. What we found is some organizations, like it sounds like y'all, they don't work that way. So then they have to go and undo everything we did and kind of shoehorn it. And the really nice thing about Nonprofit Cloud is it is designed to be more flexible so that you can have, you can turn this on, but you don't have to. If you don't use programs, you don't even have to turn programs on.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. And that's kind of the I guess, conclusion that we've been coming to as we've been evaluating the different options.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah, and I was going to say, Corey, it's dependent on the org, but we've definitely, I think 100% of the time started with Nonprofit Cloud as kind of our base. So great.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? And then we've got about 10 minutes, we can wrap.
let's move to takeaways.
All right. Okay. See my screen? Good to go. Okay, guys, so we always want to end with concrete resources you can take back to your team. First, the NPC roadmap, which shows what's available today, what's coming soon across fundraising, program and case management, grant making, volunteer management. It also highlights where Agentforce is being embedded into Nonprofit Cloud, so you can see how AI will support your staff in the near future. Second, the updated system and integration worksheet. We've added a new migration planning checklist tab that aligns with the steps and stuff that we've talked about today. Storage review, integrations, reports mapping, retention, etc. This is a suggested homework for the week. I'd suggest you use it as, starting to catalog what you have. You don't need to kind of solve everything right away. But kind of getting visibility in what you have now will make the rest of the migration journey a lot smoother. And we're also happy to review it with you once it's complete, or if you have any questions.
And actually, if I may add a suggestion, I put the links in the meeting chat. So we have a free product and a paid add-on. I think everyone needs to understand what's going on in the org. I mean, you can choose your own choose. I am biased, but please look at what you are using and you are not using. Have a sense to have data-driven conversations. And if you wanted to try the Pro Edition, and if you want an extended trial, just send me a note and I'll make sure it happens. The best part of my job is working with and supporting nonprofits. And I don't just say this because you make a meaningful difference in our society. And let me know how I can support you.
Thank you, Mehmet. Or do Q&As. Okay, so there any more questions? I'll give about a minute to see if anybody has any other questions.
And Ashley, I just put in the chat that I will follow up with everyone tomorrow with links, just like last week, to the recording deck, takeaways, and a reminder about the offer that Mehmet just so graciously provided to us.
Perfect. Thanks, Karen.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I'm so sorry. I'll just jump in and say my name is Karen Tracy. I'm VP of Marketing, and I've really appreciated everyone's engagement throughout this, and also your grace when it came to last week's Zoom snafu, which was entirely my fault. I am really excited to welcome Sonny Wilkinson from OMRF next week. That's the Oklahoma Medical Research Foundation. He's a client of ours, and we'll be talking about their recent NPSP to NPC migration. And he's a super friendly fella, is really geared up to talk about this. So I ask you to think about what questions you might have of someone who has been through the trenches, in the trenches, and come out on the other end, because Sonny will be here exactly for that reason.
Thanks, Karen. All right. Thank you all again for being here. It was great to have this session, and we're here if you need anything. Thanks so much.